Jiwan stood in the center of the Galactic Senate chamber, trying not to feel small. The massive circular room stretched high above her head, with platforms for each species arranged in rising tiers. Some aliens floated in special gravity fields, others sat in pools of liquid. A few existed as clouds of gas contained in transparent boxes. She had been Earth's ambassador for 2 years now. Most days were boring. Trade agreements, shipping lane disputes, arguments about toilet designs on mixed species stations. Today was supposed to be another boring day. Next on the agenda, announced Talon, the Senate leader. He was a Vrix, a species that looked like a cross between a mantis and a dragon. His voice came through her translator as a calm, deep rumble. Archaeological report from Professor Vornak. Jiwan relaxed slightly. Archaeology was always interesting, at least. She watched as a Krellian shuffled to the speaker's platform. Krellians looked like walking rocks with too many eyes. Vornak carried a data crystal that glowed with a soft blue light. Honored senators, Vornak began. His rocky face couldn't show emotion, but his voice sounded excited. 3 months ago, my team discovered a sealed vault on the dead world of Terminus 9. The vault was old. Very old. We estimate it was built 50 million years ago. Whispers filled the chamber. 50 million years was ancient even by galactic standards. Most species had only reached space in the last 100,000 years. Inside the vault we found star maps. Vornak continued. Maps from before the first expansion, before the Vrix Empire, before the Krellian Federation. These maps show the galaxy as it was in the deep past. The lights in the chamber dimmed. A hologram appeared in the center, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Thousands of star systems glowed in various colors. Most of the map matches our current knowledge, Vornak said. But there are differences. Worlds that no longer exist. Dead systems that were once thriving. And this, he pointed to a section of the map. A yellow star appeared with planets orbiting around it. The third planet from the star glowed bright red. A symbol floated above it, a skull with crossed weapons behind it. The map identifies this planet with a name, Vornak said quietly. Vulcathax. The chamber went silent. Completely silent. Jiwan noticed several aliens shifting nervously. That word appears in the oldest legends, Talon said slowly. Vulcathax. The Forge of Endless War, the Death World. But those are just myths, children's stories to scare hatchlings. I thought so too, Vornak replied. But the vault contained more than maps. It contained warnings, records, fragments of historical databases. All of them marked this planet with the highest level of danger. More holograms appeared, alien text in dozens of ancient languages. G1's translator struggled with some of them, but certain phrases came through clearly. Never approach. Never provoke. Never forget. The ones from Vulcathax cannot be defeated, only survived. They are persistence made flesh. They are death that walks. They ended the Golden Age. They will end any age that challenges them. Jiwan felt confused. The myths about Vulcathax were famous across the galaxy. Every species had stories about the ancient warriors from the cursed world, who had supposedly destroyed entire civilizations. But they were just stories, weren't they? Professor Vornak, she said, activating her speaking platform. This is fascinating history, but why present it to the Senate? These events happened millions of years ago. Vornak turned all 7 of his eyes toward her. Because, Ambassador Jiwan, we calculated the coordinates. The location of Vulcathax according to these maps. He pressed a control. The holographic map shifted, zooming in on the red planet. Then another image appeared beside it. A modern star chart. The coordinates match exactly with a planet in your star system, Vornak said. The third planet from your sun. Jiwan felt her heart stop. That's Earth, she whispered. Yes, Vornak said. According to these ancient records, your homeworld is Vulcathax. Earth is the death world. Humans are the species that every civilization in the galaxy learned to fear. The chamber exploded into chaos. Aliens shouted in 100 different languages. Several smaller species fled from the room entirely. She saw a Vrix senator physically pushing away from her platform, trying to get distance from G1. Order, Talon shouted. Order in the chamber. It took 5 minutes for the noise to die down. G1 stood frozen, her mind racing. It couldn't be true. Humans were newcomers to the galaxy. They had only invented faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. They were one of the youngest species in the Senate. This must be a mistake, G1 said, forcing her voice to stay calm. Humans have only been spacefaring for a generation. Our history goes back maybe 10,000 years of civilization. We have no records of any ancient empire. The records suggest that Volcathax suffered a catastrophic event, Fornax said. All the warnings describe how the warriors of that world destroyed themselves in a civil war. They fought with such intensity that they shattered planets, burned stars, made entire sectors of space uninhabitable. The legends say only one world survived, added an old senator from the Chkatak hive. His insect-like body trembled, the original world, Volcathax itself, but it was left broken, primitive. The survivors forgot what they were. Jiwan looked around the chamber. Every alien present was staring at her with expressions she had learned to recognize over her years as ambassador. Fear, pure, undiluted fear. I need to contact Earth, she said. I need to speak with our historians, our scientists. We need to investigate this. Investigate quickly, Talon said. His voice had lost its calm tone. Ambassador Jiwan, I have been Senate leader for 600 years. I have dealt with wars, plagues, and cosmic disasters. But never in my life did I think I would meet a survivor of Volcathax. I'm just a human, Jiwan protested. I'm a diplomat. I grew up on a farm. I've never hurt anyone. That's what makes it worse, whispered a senator in the back. You don't even know what you are. The session ended early. Jiwan walked back to her quarters in the human section of the station. Other aliens moved out of her way, some ran. A Krellian child saw her and started crying, pulling at its parent's arm. By the time she reached her rooms, her hands were shaking. She activated her communication console and sent an emergency message back to Earth. Then she sat down and pulled up everything she could find about the Volcathax legends. The stories were terrifying. Warriors who could survive in the vacuum of space. Hunters who would chase their prey for weeks without stopping. Beings who thrived on what would kill other species. Extreme temperatures, radiation, poisons. They kept predators as companions. They ate things that burned their own mouths for pleasure. They laughed in battle. Jiwan read the descriptions and felt a chill run down her spine. Because some of those things weren't legends. Humans did keep wolves and big cats as pets. They did eat spicy food. They did run marathon distances for fun. She had seen human soldiers laugh while training for combat. What if the legends were true? What if Earth really was Volcathax? Her console beeped. A response from Earth marked urgent. She opened it and read the first line. Emergency historical investigation has begun. Preliminary findings are disturbing. Multiple anomalies discovered in Earth's prehistoric record. Recommend you prepare for significant revelations. Jiwan closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Tomorrow she would have to face the Senate again. Tomorrow she might have to explain why humans were the galaxy's ancient nightmare. But tonight, she just felt small and scared, and very, very far from home. Minho hadn't slept in 3 days. The coffee had stopped working hours ago, but he kept drinking it anyway. Around him, the Global Archives facility in Geneva hummed with frantic activity. Every screen showed a different piece of the puzzle. Every researcher worked on a different mystery. Found another one, called out Hyejin from across the room. She was the team's quantum archaeologist, specializing in finding things that didn't want to be found. Right now, she was bent over a holographic display showing ocean floor scans. Minho hurried over. Show me. Hyejin pointed at the display. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, the scans showed something that shouldn't exist. A structure, massive and geometric, too perfect to be natural. It's a spaceport, she said quietly. Or it was. The dating puts it at 4 million years old. Maybe older. Minho felt his stomach twist. That was the 5th one they had found. 5 ancient spaceports buried under Earth's oceans. All of them millions of years old. All of them built by someone. There's more, Hyejin continued. She pulled up another scan. We found this under the Mediterranean. It took 3 days to process because the quantum signature is so degraded. The image showed something that looked like a warship. A massive warship big enough to carry thousands of people. It was buried under 3 miles of sediment and rock. The design was alien yet somehow familiar, aggressive, built for fighting. We tried to match the design to known galactic ship types, Hyejin said. No matches. But then Taejun from the military division had an idea. He compared it to current human warship designs. She brought up 2 images side by side. The ancient ship and a modern Earth destroyer. The similarities were obvious. The same aggressive angles, the same focus on armor and weapons. The same basic shape philosophy. We designed our ships like this, Minho said slowly. Ships meant for war, without ever seeing this ancient design. Genetic memory? Hyejin suggested. Or just human nature. Either way, it's disturbing. A commotion at the other end of the room made them both look up. General Taijin had entered, accompanied by several military scientists. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Report, Taijun said without preamble. Minho pulled up the central display. We've confirmed 5 underwater spaceports, 17 military installations, 3 possible shipyards, all of them millions of years old. All of them on Earth. So the Senate was right, Taijun said. Earth is Volcathax. It looks that way, Minho admitted. But there's more. We've been analyzing ancient human mythology with new eyes, looking for references to spacefaring civilizations. He pulled up a collection of texts, myths from dozens of cultures, stories about gods coming down from the sky in flying chariots, tales of wars in heaven, legends of humans living among the stars before a great fall. We always assumed these were just stories, Minho said. Primitive people trying to explain things they didn't understand. But what if they were memories? Distorted and changed over thousands of years, but based on real events. Hyejin took over. Look at this. Greek mythology talks about a war between the gods and the Titans. The war supposedly destroyed so much that the world had to be rebuilt. Hindu texts describe weapons that could destroy entire cities in one blast. Sounds like descriptions of orbital bombardment. Chinese legends speak of a time before time when humans lived in palaces among the stars, added another researcher. Japanese mythology describes a war in heaven that ended with the gods falling to earth. Taijin listened silently, his expression growing darker. You're saying every culture on Earth has some memory of this ancient civilization? Exactly, Minho confirmed. And we found this. He pulled up a new file. Inside was a translation of text recovered from one of the underwater facilities. The language was old, incredibly old, but the AI had managed to piece together fragments. We are the children of Volcathax, born in fire and war. We conquered 10,000 worlds. We made the galaxy kneel, but we have forgotten what it means to be at peace. Brother fights brother, sister kills sister. Our empire burns from within. This entry is dated approximately 4 million years ago, Minho said. It's followed by dozens of similar entries, all describing a civil war, a war that tore apart the entire human civilization. Hyejin brought up more translated text. This one is from later, maybe 3.5 million years ago. Listen to this. The war is ending. Not because anyone won, but because almost everyone is dead. The colonies are gone. The fleets are destroyed. Only Volcathax remains, and even she is wounded. Some of us want to rebuild, to start again. But others say we should forget. We should erase the technology. Erase the knowledge. Let our descendants start fresh without the burden of our failures. The room went silent. Everyone understood what they were hearing. An ancient decision. A choice made by their ancestors millions of years ago. They wiped their own civilization, Taijun said. Deliberately. The evidence supports it, Minho agreed. We found signs of systematic destruction. Technology deliberately buried. Databases erased. They wanted to make sure future generations couldn't repeat their mistakes. But they couldn't erase everything, Hyejin added. They couldn't erase human nature. Look at our history. Even starting from nothing, we invented weapons. We fought wars. We conquered and destroyed. It took us thousands of years to learn cooperation. Taijin walked to the window overlooking the Geneva facility grounds. Outside, people went about their normal lives. They had no idea their world had once been called Volcathax. I need to ask you both something, Taijun said. Why are humans the way we are? Why can we survive in environments that kill most aliens? Why can we run for hours when other species collapse after minutes? Why do we heal so fast, think so aggressively, bond with predators? Minho had been thinking about this. Earth is a death world, a real death world. Most habitable planets have gentler conditions, lower gravity, calmer weather, fewer predators. Earth is violent. Volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, ice ages, predators everywhere. We evolved here, Hyejin continued. Or maybe our ancient ancestors genetically modified themselves to survive here. Either way, we adapted to survive on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. And that made us dangerous. Taijin finished. That made us Volcathax. Another researcher ran up with a tablet. Sirs, we just received a message from Ambassador G1. The Senate is demanding answers. Some species are calling for Earth to be quarantined. Others want us expelled from the galactic community entirely. Tajin's jaw tightened. What else? There are reports of panic on several alien worlds. Markets are crashing. Some species are evacuating colonies near our space, and there's a growing movement calling for a preemptive strike against Earth. Minho felt cold. They want to attack us? We haven't done anything. We don't have to do anything, Tajin said bitterly. We just have to exist. We're Volcathax, the legendary monsters. Just knowing we exist is enough to terrify the galaxy. Hijin pulled up more data. We need to understand what we were. Look at this. We found records of how ancient humans fought. They didn't just have superior technology. They had superior tactics. They would fight in conditions that would kill other species. No atmosphere. They wore suits and kept fighting. Ship damaged? They would board enemy vessels and capture them. They were known for persistence hunting, Minho added. They would chase enemy ships for days, weeks, following them through jump after jump until the enemy ran out of fuel or supplies. They were patient, relentless, and they kept predators as companions, Yijin said. She showed images from the database. Ancient humans with creatures that looked like wolves, big cats, even things that looked like small dinosaurs. They bonded with hunting animals, used them in combat. Tajin looked at the images and thought about his own dog waiting at home, about how humans throughout history had kept wolves and turned them into companions, about how some people kept big cats as pets even though it was dangerous. We still do that, he said quietly. We still keep predators as friends. Other species think it's insane. Other species think a lot of what we do is insane, Minho said. Eating food that burns our mouths, running marathons for fun, climbing mountains because they're there, diving into oceans, jumping out of aircraft. We seek danger. Because we're from Volcathax, Hijin whispered. We're adapted for constant danger. We're comfortable with it. Tajun turned back to them. Can you prepare a full report for Ambassador Jiwan? Everything we've found, everything we know. She needs to present this to the Senate. Of course, Minho said. But sir, what do we tell them? How do we explain this? Tajin was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the sun was setting over Geneva. Somewhere up in orbit, aliens were looking down at Earth with fear in their hearts. We tell them the truth, Tajin finally said. We tell them we're human. We came from Volcathax. We carry that legacy in our bones. But we're not our ancestors. We chose a different path. Will they believe that? Hijin asked. Tajin smiled, but there was no humor in it. Probably not. But it's all we have. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within 6 hours of the Senate session, every major civilization knew. Earth was Volcathax. Humans were the ancient warriors from legend. The monsters were real, and they had been living among the galactic community for 30 years. Sora watched the panic unfold from her office on Frontier Station 7. She was a junior diplomat, assigned to one of the smaller outposts near human space. Her job was usually simple: help human traders with permits, assist tourists, handle minor disputes. Now her job was surviving. Ambassador Sora, please, you must help us. The Krellian merchant pressed against her desk, all 7 eyes wide with terror. My family is on the station. We need transport back to Krellian space now, before the humans remember what they are. The humans aren't going to hurt you, Sora said, trying to keep her voice calm. She had been saying the same thing for hours. We're the same people we were yesterday. Nothing has changed. Everything has changed, the Krellian shouted. You're Volcathax! You're the ones from the legends. My grandmother used to tell me stories to make me behave. Be good or the Volcathax will come for you. I thought they were just stories. Before Sora could respond, an alarm blared through the station. She checked her console and felt her heart sink. 3 Vrix warships had just arrived in the system. They were positioning themselves between the station and human space. This is Captain Velkson of the Vrix Defense Fleet, a voice announced over the station-wide communication system. We are implementing emergency quarantine protocols. All ships traveling to or from human space will be detained and searched. This is for the safety of all species. Sora's communicator lit up with urgent messages. Human ships stranded at various stations. Human citizens being denied entry to planets they had visited safely for years. Human goods being confiscated. She tried to reach the station administrator, but the call wouldn't connect. Then she noticed something disturbing on the security feeds. Crowds were forming outside the human quarter. "Angry crowds, I need to go," she told the Krellian merchant. "Please stay calm. Everything will be fine." She didn't believe her own words. Sora ran toward the human quarter, her security badge allowing her through checkpoints faster than normal. Behind her, she could hear shouting. The crowd was growing. Meanwhile, halfway across the galaxy, Merchant Captain Junho was dealing with his own problems. He had been in the middle of negotiating a cargo contract when station security had stormed his ship. "You are under arrest," the lead security officer had announced. She was a Chikituk, her insect features making her expressions hard to read, but her body language screamed fear. "Arrested for what?" Junho demanded. "I have all my permits. My cargo is legal. My papers are in order. You are human," the officer said. "That is enough." Now Junho sat in a holding cell watching the news feeds on a small screen. It was chaos. Every major news network showed the same story. Volcathax, the ancient warriors, the return of the galaxy's worst nightmare. The screen showed protests on the Krellian homeworld. Thousands of aliens demanding that humans be expelled from the galaxy. Another feed showed a human freighter being destroyed by nervous defense forces near the Vrix border. The crew had survived, but barely. "This is insane," Junho muttered. "We're not ancient warriors. I'm a cargo hauler. I transport grain and machine parts." A young Chikitak guard stood nearby, his weapon held nervously. "Is it true?" he asked quietly. "Are you really from Volcathax?" Junho looked at him. The guard was young, maybe just started his service. "I'm from Earth," Junho said. "We just learned yesterday that Earth used to be called Volcathax. I'm as surprised as you are." "But the legends," the guard said. "The stories say Volcathax warriors could tear through ship hulls with their bare hands. That they could survive in vacuum. That they hunted for sport and kept predators as pets." "I have a cat," Junho admitted. "Does that make me a monster?" The guard's antenna twitched nervously. To him, keeping a predator in your home probably did seem monstrous. Back on Frontier Station 7, Sora had reached the human quarter, just as the crowd broke through the security barriers. She could see human families barricading themselves in their homes. Human shopkeepers closing their shutters. A human child crying as his alien classmates threw rocks at his window. "Stop this," Sora shouted, pushing through the crowd. "These people haven't done anything wrong." A large Krellian turned to face her. "Haven't done anything yet, but they will. It's in their nature. They're Volcathax. They're predators. They're waiting for the right moment to strike." "That's not true," Sora protested. But even as she said it, she wondered. She had read the reports from Earth, the ancient spaceports, the warships, the evidence that humans had once conquered thousands of worlds. The crowd surged forward. Sora tried to stop them, but someone shoved her aside. She fell hard, hitting her head on the deck. Her vision blurred. Through the haze, she saw human security guards running toward the scene. They were outnumbered 10-1, but they didn't hesitate. They moved into the crowd, pulling aliens back, creating a defensive line. One of them, a woman named Yunji, grabbed Sora and pulled her to safety. "Are you hurt?" Sora touched her head and felt blood. "I'm fine, stop them." "Don't hurt anyone," Yunji gave her a strange look. "We're not going to hurt anyone, Ambassador. We're trying to protect them from themselves." The human security team didn't fight. They didn't attack. They just stood their ground, absorbing hits, taking damage, creating a barrier between the angry crowd and the human families. Someone in the crowd threw something heavy. It hit one of the security guards in the face, breaking his nose. Blood poured down his face, but he didn't move. He didn't strike back. He just stood there, bleeding. The crowd started to slow. Some of the aliens looked uncertain. This wasn't what the legends described. Volcathax warriors were supposed to be violent, aggressive. These humans were just standing there, taking punishment, refusing to fight back. Station security finally arrived in force, breaking up the crowd. Sora was taken to medical, where a doctor stitched up her head wound. "You're lucky," the doctor said. He was human. A middle-aged man named Doyun who had worked on the station for 5 years. "A few centimeters to the left and you'd have a serious concussion." "Why didn't your security team fight back?" Sora asked. "They could have. Some of those aliens were half your size." Doyun finished the stitches before answering. "Because we're trying to prove we're not monsters, even if it means getting hurt." Sora's communicator buzzed. A message from Ambassador Jiwon at the main Senate station. She read it and felt her blood run cold. There's been an incident, she said quietly. A group of extremist Krellians tried to sabotage a human colony ship. They wanted to kill everyone aboard. Thousands of people. Did they succeed? Doyen asked. No, the colonists fought back. They subdued the attackers without killing anyone. But the footage is spreading. The galaxy is seeing humans fight for the first time since the revelation. Doyen pulled up the video on his screen. Sora watched over his shoulder. The footage showed the inside of a colony ship. Alarms blaring. Krellian attackers wearing explosive vests moving through corridors. Then human security teams appeared. They moved fast, faster than Sora had ever seen anyone move. They tackled the attackers, disarmed them, neutralized them, all in less than a minute. One human took 3 shots from an energy weapon and kept moving. Another absorbed a hit that should have knocked him unconscious. They seemed unstoppable. That's going to make things worse, Sora whispered. Or better, Doyen said. Look at the comments. Some aliens are scared, but others are asking questions. If humans wanted to hurt us, why didn't they kill the attackers? Why did they show restraint? He was right. The comment sections were full of confused aliens. The legend said Volcathak's warriors were brutal, merciless, but the footage showed humans being protective, not aggressive. Sora's communicator buzzed again. This time it was a priority message from Earth's government. She read it with growing disbelief. They're sending a fleet, she said, a volunteer fleet, to help the Letharian civilization. What? Doyen looked confused. Why? The Letharians are being attacked by Ravager drones. Everyone else refused to help because it's too dangerous. But Earth is sending ships anyway. Doyen was quiet for a moment. That's either the bravest thing I've ever heard or the stupidest. Or both, Sora said. Across the galaxy, the panic continued. Markets crashed. Economies collapsed. Species that had been friendly with humans for decades now avoided them. But something else was happening too. Some species were watching, waiting, trying to understand. Were humans the monsters from legend, or were they something else? In her quarters, Sora watched the news feeds late into the night. She saw fear and hatred, but also curiosity. The galaxy had discovered humans were Volcathaks. Now they would discover what that really meant. Junho, still in his cell, watched the same feeds. The young Chikatak guard stood nearby, also watching. What are you going to do? The guard asked quietly. When they release you, will you leave the galaxy? Go back to Earth? Hunyo thought about it. He thought about his ship, his crew, his life among the stars. No, he finally said. This is my home too. I'll stay. I'll prove we're not monsters. The guard's antenna twitched. Fear or maybe hope? Hunyo couldn't tell. Outside the window, General Tajin stood on the bridge of the volunteer flagship, watching the fleet assemble. 15 ships, not much compared to the massive fleets of the Vrix or Krellians, but it was what Earth could spare on short notice. Volunteers only. No one had been ordered to come. They had all chosen to be here. Sir, we're receiving the distress signal again, his communications officer said. Her name was Hyejin, and she had transferred from the research division to help with this mission. The Letharians are begging for help. They estimate they have less than 48 hours before the Ravagers overrun their last cities. Tajin nodded grimly. The Ravagers were old machines from a dead civilization, programmed to destroy with no one left to shut them down. They had been eating their way through a dozen star systems for the past century. Every species in the galaxy knew about them. Every species stayed away until now. How long until we reach the Letharian system? Tajin asked. 6 hours at maximum speed. The navigation officer replied. Then let's not waste time. All ships prepare to jump. The fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel. Behind them they left a galaxy watching with a mixture of fear and fascination. News drones followed at a safe distance, broadcasting everything. On one of the escort ships, fighter pilot Yunji ran through her pre-flight checks. She had been a pilot for 8 years, flew cargo runs and patrol routes, never seen combat. Now she was about to fight ancient war machines that had destroyed entire civilizations. She should be terrified. Instead, she felt excited, alive, ready. Is that wrong? She asked her co-pilot, a young man named Minho. Not the researcher, a different Minho. There were a lot of Minhos in the fleet. Is what wrong? Minho asked, checking weapon systems, feeling excited. We're about to go into battle. People might die. But I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Minho was quiet for a moment. I know what you mean. I've been thinking about what we learned. About Volcathax. About humans being warriors. Maybe it's genetic. Maybe it's in our blood. That should scare me, Yunji said. But it doesn't. On the flagship, Taejin was receiving updates from Earth. The Senate had condemned the mission. Several species had formally protested, claiming humans were using the Litharian crisis as an excuse to demonstrate military power. They're not entirely wrong, Taejin muttered. Sir? Heejin looked up from her console. Nothing. Just thinking out loud. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Litharian system. Immediately, alarms started blaring. Ravagers detected, the tactical officer announced. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. They're all over the system. The main screen showed the carnage. Litharian ships floating dead in space. Orbital stations torn apart. And on the planet below, cities burning. The Litharians were a peaceful species, looking like a cross between dolphins and birds. Their civilization was based on art and music. They had no real military. They were dying. Reading a distress signal from the surface, Hyejin said. A shelter with approximately 10,000 civilians. Ravagers are closing in. Taejin didn't hesitate. All ships, combat formation. Fighters launch. We're going in. The human fleet accelerated toward the planet. Ravager drones detected them immediately and changed course to intercept. They were ugly machines, all sharp edges and weapons, built only to destroy. The first wave hit the fleet within minutes. Ravager drones swarmed around the human ships, firing plasma weapons and kinetic rounds. Shields at 70%, a damage control officer reported, taking hits across all sections. Return fire, Taejun ordered. Don't let them through. The human ships opened fire. Railguns, missiles, energy weapons. The Ravagers had shielding too, but human weapons were designed to punch through defenses. Ships that had been built in the shadow of Volcathax's ancient legacy. Yunji launched from the flagship in her fighter, Minho beside her. Ahead she could see dozens of Ravager drones turning to face them. This is crazy, Minho said over the comm. We're outnumbered 50-1. Then we better be 50 times better than them, Yunji replied. She pushed her fighter into a spin that would have made most aliens pass out from the G-forces. Humans could take more punishment. Another gift from Volcathax. She fired her weapons at point-blank range, destroying a Ravager drone. Then another. And another. Her movements were aggressive, borderline reckless. She dove between Ravager formations, using maneuvers no safety regulation allowed. Other human pilots followed her lead. They flew like people who didn't fear death. Like people who had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. On the flagship, Taejin watched the battle unfold. The Ravagers were numerous, but they fought with programmed tactics. Predictable. Humans were not predictable. Sir, 3 Ravager cruisers are moving to intercept the fighters, Tactical reported. They're too big. Our fighters can't damage them. Taejin looked at the screen. The Ravager cruisers were massive, each one the size of a small moon. They were moving to crush the human fighters between their hulls. Get me the Marine commander, Taejun said. A grizzled face appeared on his screen. Special Forces soldier Kyungmin, decorated veteran of a dozen boarding actions. Yes, sir. We need those cruisers disabled. Think you can board them? Kyungmin smiled. It was not a nice smile. With pleasure, sir. 10 minutes later, boarding pods launched from the human ships. They were small, fast, and heavily armored. Designed for one purpose, getting soldiers onto enemy ships. The Ravagers tried to shoot down the pods, but humans had learned centuries ago how to survive hostile entry operations. Most of the pods made it through. Kyungmin's pod crashed through the hull of a Ravager cruiser, smashing through meters of armor. The impact would have killed most species. Humans had harnesses designed for it. The pod door exploded outward and Kyungmin led his team into the ship. There was no atmosphere. No problem. They wore suits. The temperature was near absolute zero. Uncomfortable but survivable. Ravager defense drones swarmed toward them. Kyungmin and his team opened fire, moving through the corridors with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this. Humans were good at breaking into places they weren't wanted. Remember, Kyungmin said over the comm, our objective is the power core. Destroy it and the ship goes dark. They fought their way deeper into the cruiser. Ravagers threw everything at them. Automated defenses, combat drones, even trapped corridors. The team took casualties. 2 soldiers injured. 1 suit breached. Kyungmin sealed the injured soldier's suit with emergency foam and kept moving. They didn't have time to stop. Couldn't stop. That was another thing from Volkathax: persistence, keep moving. Keep fighting! Never stop. The power core was heavily defended. Kyungmin's team laid explosives while under constant fire. One soldier took a direct hit that punched through his armor. He kept working, planting his charges even as blood froze on his suit. Charges set. Kyungmin reported. Extraction in 30 seconds, they ran. The Ravagers pursued. The injured soldier fell behind. Without hesitation, Kyungmin grabbed him and carried him, suit and all. Over 200 kilograms of weight. He ran anyway. They made it to the extraction pod with seconds to spare. The explosives detonated behind them, tearing through the power core. The massive cruiser shuddered and went dark. Above the planet, Yunji saw the cruiser stop moving. Then another. Then the third. All disabled by boarding parties. Humans are insane, her co-pilot Minho said, but he was laughing. We're from Volkathax, Yunji replied. This is what we do. The battle turned. Without the cruisers, the Ravager drones lost coordination. The human fleet pushed forward, clearing a path to the planet's surface. Taejin watched the tactical display with satisfaction, but they weren't done yet. The shelter with 10,000 Letharians was still under siege. I need volunteers for a ground operation, Taejun announced. Rescue mission. High casualties expected. Half the crew volunteered immediately. They descended to the planet's surface in dropships. The Letharians had barricaded themselves in an old concert hall. Beautiful architecture, now scarred by war. Ravagers surrounded it, trying to break through. The human soldiers hit them from behind. It wasn't a fair fight. Ravagers had numbers and weapons. Humans had anger and determination. One human soldier, a young woman named Sora, found herself face to face with 3 Ravager drones. Her weapon was empty. She should retreat. Instead, she pulled out a combat knife and charged. The drones were machines. They didn't understand the concept of a smaller, weaker opponent attacking them with a primitive blade. By the time their combat algorithms processed the situation, Sora had disabled 2 of them and was working on the 3rd. Other soldiers saw her and rallied. They pushed forward step by step, clearing the area around the concert hall. Inside the hall, a young Letharian named Lithix watched through a crack in the barricade. He saw humans fighting, saw them taking damage that should have killed them and getting back up, saw them protecting the concert hall with their own bodies. One human soldier got hit by plasma fire. It burned through his armor, melted his skin. He screamed, but he didn't fall. He kept fighting until other soldiers dragged him to cover. They're monsters, Lithix's parent whispered. No, Lithix said quietly. They're heroes. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Ravagers were destroyed or scattered. The shelter was safe. The Letharians were saved, but the cost was heavy. The Galactic Senate chamber was packed. Every species had sent representatives. News drones floated everywhere, recording everything. The entire galaxy was watching. Jiwon stood in the center of the chamber, exactly where she had stood weeks ago when this all began. But everything was different now. The alien still looked at her with fear, but now there was something else too. Uncertainty, confusion, maybe even respect. Senator Talon called the session to order. His voice was carefully neutral. We are here to discuss the human question, to decide the future relationship between Earth and the galactic community. Before he could continue, a Letharian delegate stood up. Jiwon recognized him. Lithix's parent, one of the survivors from the concert hall. I wish to speak, the Letharian said. Talon looked surprised but nodded. The floor recognizes Delegate Corvin of Letharia. Corvin moved to the speaker's platform. His dolphin-like features showed emotion clearly. Fear mixed with gratitude. 3 weeks ago, my world was dying, Corvin began. The Ravagers were destroying everything. We called for help. Every species refused. They said it was too dangerous. Too costly. Not worth the risk. He paused, his voice breaking slightly. Only humans answered. They sent a small fleet, volunteers. They knew they might die. They came anyway. The chamber was silent. Corvin pulled up footage from the battle. The same footage the whole galaxy had seen. Human ships fighting impossible odds. Human soldiers boarding Ravager cruisers. Human pilots performing maneuvers that should have killed them. I watched humans fight, Corvin said. I watched them take damage that would have killed my people 10 times over. I watched them keep fighting with broken bones, burns, wounds that should have been fatal. And I was terrified. He looked directly at Jiwon. I thought these are the Volkathax from legend. These are the monsters we were warned about. They fight like demons. They don't know when to stop. They don't fear death. Jiwan kept her expression calm, but inside she felt cold. This was it. The moment when the galaxy decided if humans were acceptable or not. But then the battle ended. Corvin continued. And the humans didn't slaughter us. Didn't conquer us. Didn't demand payment. They helped us rebuild. They shared their supplies. They treated our wounded. A human soldier bleeding from his own injuries carried my child to safety. His voice grew stronger. These are not the monsters from legend. These are protectors. Warriors, yes. Dangerous, yes. But they fight for people, not against them. Murmurs filled the chamber, some agreeing. Some still skeptical. Another delegate stood. Of Rick's military commander. The Letharians are grateful, we understand. But that does not change the facts. Humans are from Volcathax. They have the same capabilities as the ancient warriors. Today they protect. Tomorrow they might conquer. Jiwan activated her speaking platform. May I address that concern? Talon nodded. Jiwan took a deep breath. This was the moment she had prepared for. Minho and Hyejin had sent their complete report. She knew everything now. About ancient humanity. About the Civil War. About the choice to forget. You're right, she said simply. We are from Volcathax. We are the descendants of the ancient warriors. We have the same physical capabilities. The same instincts. The same potential for violence. She let that sink in. Saw the fear in alien eyes. But we are not our ancestors, she continued. 4 million years ago, humans discovered something important. We learned that being the strongest doesn't mean being the best. Our empire spanned thousands of worlds, but it was built on war and domination. And it destroyed itself. Jiwan pulled up images from the Earth archives, the ancient spaceports, the buried warships, the translated texts. Our ancestors made a choice, she said. They could have rebuilt their empire. They had the knowledge, the technology, the capability. Instead, they chose to forget. They deliberately erased their civilization. They wanted to give their descendants a chance to be better. A Krellian senator spoke up. But you still carry the violence, we saw it. You still fight like Volcathax. Yes, Jiwan agreed. We can't change our nature. We evolved on a death world. We're adapted for survival and combat. When threatened, we respond with everything we have. That's in our biology. She paused, making eye contact with delegates around the chamber. But biology isn't destiny. We choose how to use our capabilities. For 4 million years, we forgot we were Volcathax. We built new civilizations from nothing. We fought wars, yes. We made mistakes. But we also learned cooperation, art, music, philosophy. We learned to build instead of just destroy. Minho's voice came through her earpiece. He was watching from Earth. Tell them about the choice. About what we decided. Jiwan nodded slightly. When we discovered our history, when we learned we were Volcathax, Earth's government held an emergency session. We debated what to do. Some suggested hiding the truth. Some suggested leaving the galactic community. Some even suggested embracing our ancient identity. What did you choose? Talon asked quietly. We chose honesty, Jiwan said. We chose to admit what we are and prove we can be better. Yes, we're from Volcathax. Yes, we're dangerous. But we're also capable of protecting, not just destroying. Another delegate stood. A Chkitak Hive representative. How can we trust you? How do we know you won't one day decide to reclaim your ancient empire? Before Jiwan could answer, General Taejin's face appeared on a screen. He was broadcasting from the Letharian system, where human forces were still helping with reconstruction. You can't know, Taejin said bluntly. You can never be certain. But consider this. If humans wanted to conquer the galaxy, we could have started already. We knew about our history for weeks before making it public. We could have hidden it. Built up forces, struck when you weren't expecting it. He gestured to the Letharian planet behind him. Instead, we spent those weeks helping strangers, fighting battles that weren't ours, protecting people who feared us. Hyejin's voice came through from Earth. We're uploading additional data now. Full transparency. New files appeared in the Senate database. Earth's complete military inventory. Location of every human military base. Full disclosure of human capabilities. We're showing you everything, Jiwan said. No secrets. No hidden weapons. You can see exactly what we're capable of. If that makes you fear us more, we understand. But we believe trust requires honesty. The chamber erupted into discussions. Delegates argued with each other. Some wanted humans expelled from the galaxy. Some wanted humans as allies. Some were still undecided. Talon called for order. This is not a decision we can make today. The Senate will recess for 1 week while delegates consult with their governments. As the session ended, young Lithix managed to slip into the chamber. He ran up to Jiwon holding something in his small hands. "This is for you," he said, offering her a small carved figure. It was a human soldier, rendered in Litharian artistic style, beautiful and strong at the same time. "My parent carved it," Lithix explained, "to remember the humans who saved us. You're not monsters, you're heroes." Jiwon took the carving, feeling tears sting her eyes. "Thank you." The week passed slowly. Jiwon waited in her quarters watching the news feeds. The galaxy was divided. Some species like the Litharians advocated for accepting humans. Others remained fearful. Markets were still unstable. Some borders remained closed, but something was changing. Humans across the galaxy were proving themselves through actions. Human merchants helped stranded aliens. Human doctors volunteered at hospitals on alien worlds. Human engineers assisted with construction projects. And when another crisis emerged, a plague on a Krellian colony world, human medical teams were the first to arrive and help. Finally, the Senate reconvened. Talon stood to announce the decision. "The Galactic Senate has voted," he said. "Regarding the human question, we have reached a majority consensus." Jiwon held her breath. "Humans will remain members of the galactic community," Talon announced. "However, there will be conditions." He outlined the new framework. Humans would serve as protectors. When disasters struck, when threats emerged, human forces would be called first. In exchange, humans would receive support from other species. Technology sharing. Trade agreements. Cultural exchange. "You are Volcathax," Talon said, looking at Jiwon. "That will never change. But you have shown us that Volcathax can mean more than monster. It can mean protector, guardian. We accept you as what you are and what you choose to be." Not everyone voted in favor. Several species maintained their restrictions. But it was a start. After the session, Jiwon found herself surrounded by delegates wanting to talk. Some thanking her. Some still wary. Some curious. A young Chikatak approached nervously. Jiwon recognized him as the guard who had been watching Junho in his cell. "Ambassador," he said, "I wanted to apologize. I was afraid. I thought humans were monsters. What changed your mind?" Jiwon asked. "I watched Captain Junho in his cell. He was scared like anyone would be. He talked about his cat. He worried about his crew. He was just a person. A person from Volcathax, but still just a person." On Earth, in a classroom in Seoul, young Ji-hyun watched the Senate broadcast with his classmates. Their teacher, a woman named Yoonji, paused the video. "What did we learn today?" she asked. Ji-hyun raised his hand. "We learned about our history. About Volcathax. About what we were and what else," Yoonji prompted. Another student spoke up.